And there was even no debate on what the start of today's show should be. No one was like, guys, it's a Wednesday of a Browns week coming off a big win. No, it is Guardians time. And the NFL season we know is here. Major League Baseball playoffs are gearing up. And FanDuel is making sure you're ready for everything with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if that $5 bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So are you ready to play? If you are, download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com/UCSS to get started. That is FanDuel.com/UCSS to place your first $5 bet. Guys, the Guardians beat the Tigers. They beat Skubal and company for the second time in a week. And, Dustin, you were there.
I was.
To witness the Guardians officially claw their way back into a tie, and due to the tiebreaker, a first-place position in the AL Central. Dustin, what was it like to be inside Progressive Field last night for that electric game?
It was incredible. You know, walking into the stadium, it felt like a playoff sort of vibe. You know, the lines to get in were pretty long. They went fast, but I mean, it was awesome.
What was the final announced attendance? 30,000?
30,000.
I think it was something like that. 29 or 30.
29, just short of 30.
Yeah,
we had talked on the show.
I said
Monday.
We were hoping for 25.
Yeah.
Jay said a good crowd would have been 20. I'm like, no, that's a horrible crowd.
There was a huge walk-up.
Yeah, big,
huge.
bigger than expected.
Yes.
Which is good.
I think they sold 13,000 extra tickets like yesterday during the day.
That's amazing.
During the day.
And now today it'll be
I told you
just
guys,
as much, if not more.
Jay, you weren't here yesterday. I was.
I'm worried about today because the threat of rain
the weather.
is in the air.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but I mean, yesterday turned into this perfect. Like yesterday was like this
gorgeous
at the same time, but then it got beautiful throughout.
Yeah,
throughout the rest
but the
of the
forecast
day.
said it was going to get beautiful,
Yeah,
so everyone knew it would be nice at game time.
It was like the most perfect baseball evening ever. I mean, I took a jacket because I was like, oh, it's Cleveland. It's going to be in the 60s or 50s. I never needed it.
No.
I mean, I sat there. It was like literally 68 degrees. There was just everyone was so into the game. Everyone was so happy.
Yeah.
What was the vibe when it was kind of like a heavyweight fight, kind of like a playoff game?
Yeah.
Each pitcher feeling one another out. It looked like they both had great stuff.
Yeah.
But what was that first couple inning vibe like a playoff game all the way through?
It was really tense. And the thing I thought was fascinating is, like, I don't think I've ever stood that much at a baseball game where you're literally on your feet.
Really?
Like
the whole time.
Yeah.
Like just getting it. Basically from the time that things got, it was the sixth inning when things got really interesting.
From then
on.
on.
That crazy inning. I mean, that was
a good word for it. Interesting.
I mean, we got down 2-0 and it got quiet for a minute.
Yeah.
But then every time we got a base runner and something happened, it was just, you felt like the place started to get a little bit more electric. It was just really waiting to erupt, and then it did, man. The David Fry thing was, again, praying for the guy. I really hope he's okay. Yeah. I mean, that is a really difficult thing to watch.
To the hospital, then transferred to Cleveland
Lutheran,
Clinic, where he was they
probably just took him across the bridge real fast.
Sure. That's rare to get hit that way when you're bunting. Like, usually if a batter gets hit, it's usually kind of the side, but he took it square.
Square in.
I was trying to see if it hit the bat, so maybe it slowed it up a little.
It didn't look like
I don't think it did.
It was 99 right to the face.
And
shouldn't we have got a base out of that?
No, it was a strike.
Because
he offered it.
He offered it to bunt. I wasn't thinking about that at first, and then somebody said it to me, and I'm like, oh, yeah.
It has to be the worst strike in the history of
the game. God,
most painful.
There's never been a worse strike.
Most painful for sure.
Skubal threw it, and when we saw it hit his face,
immediately.
He looked like he was distraught.
Yep.
I was just telling Jay, it kind of, I've never seen a pitcher like that kind of unravel under these little small, like the bunt singles. It just seemed like it just got to him after a while. Like, he was just trying to make a huge play. Then you had the whole snap thing. Like, it was crazy to me. But I said this. When I came in, I told Bull, I said, man, that's one of the most entertaining baseball games I've seen in a long time. Yeah. And because the whole first 6 innings, I'm sitting here thinking, like, man, Gavin Williams is pitching his brains out right now, man. And we can't get no runs. And then the 6th inning comes around, and they find a way to get all them runs on nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
They did nothing to earn them.
Nothing.
Really. I mean, except for playing guards ball, they were aggressive.
Yeah.
They bunted well. They hustled.
Well, they ran the bases great too.
That's the key to this team.
And that's something. What
a great picture.
The Guardians, obviously they're really good teams. 16, 17, certainly in the 90s they had really good offensive clubs. But more recently, the Guardians have won with pitching, defense, and base running.
Yeah.
And occasional hitting. And they weren't doing that early in the season. The pitching wasn't very good.
No.
The defense wasn't very good. Even the base running, which is usually a complete staple of the team, was not very good. Well, all of a sudden this month, they've pitched great. They've run the bases great. They played
It's almost-
defense great.
It's almost like they woke up. and Stephen Vogt said, guys, it's getting late.
Yeah.
And we've got work to do.
Yeah.
And to your point, all of the things that they've done well in the past that have made them a playoff team,
Yes.
that they had completely forgotten,
Yes.
all of a sudden September 1st rolls around and boom, there it is. And
it truly is, guys, like a Cinderella story, like in
crazy.
March Madness or something.
Yeah.
I mean, watching this run, it's like, I think the world's captivated by it. I mean, the sports
It's the
world.
biggest
'cause
story in
there's
baseball.
there's nothing else going on right
Yeah.
now. Like last night, it was like WNBA. I mean,
Yep.
you watching the playoffs in WNBA? Maybe
Yep.
you're watching that a little bit. I don't know if you're betting on it. I don't know. But I mean, I think that everyone's like, what is going on in Cleveland?
Bull,
Yeah, it was the lead story on MLB radio, both shows I listened to this morning.
And ESPN was
Yeah.
it wasn't their lead, but it's a big story. They've been playing it as a big story for a week.
But here's the thing, too.
Go ahead.
One quick note. We kind of shortchanged the Guardians a little bit because we kept talking yesterday how they were 10 games out on September 1st. But
the 10th.
they were actually 11 games out on September 4th.
Yeah, no.
So
They
today is
erased
the
this
24th.
in 3 weeks.
That's a
in
couple
20
weeks.
days,
That's
they
crazy.
have cut a 11-game lead to 0.
That's impossible.
That is almost an impossibility.
And here's how they did it, and I'm glad that you said what they've
Yeah.
done over the last 20 days.
Yeah.
Because as I've been watching them the last week, I keep telling myself, I've never seen this before. I've never seen this before. This is historic. Where does this rank? So I love a good analytic project. I dove in on numbers last night, Bull.
Okay.
And I'm going to say something that is going to sound hyperbolic.
Oh, boy. Let's go.
I wasn't able to confirm it because even AI couldn't help me with this.
Oh, boy.
AI was stumped for 20 minutes on this. I finally gave up. I've never
Yeah.
stumped AI. I stumped
You
them.
did.
The question I asked AI was, what is the smallest amount of runs allowed by a pitching staff in Major League history over
Yeah.
20 games?
Yeah.
And it was giving me all kinds of different scenarios, and it was saying I'd have to do this to figure that out. I'd have to do that to
And
figure
like
it out.
22 or something?
So it over the last 20 games, and Bull, I want you to tell me when I'm done if this is
okay.
hyperbolic.
All right.
They've allowed 34 runs in 20 games.
That's pretty crazy.
It's 1.7 runs per game.
Yeah.
In 16 of those 20 games, they've allowed 2 runs or less. They've pitched 5 shutouts in 20 games. Some teams don't get 5 for a season.
Yeah.
The 34 runs allowed over 20 games, I ran some numbers just to figure out, well, what is the rest of baseball doing right now over the last 20? The next most effective pitching staff over the last 20 games.
Let me guess.
Guess.
20 games.
They're near and dear to your heart.
The Cubs.
Yes.
74.
75.
Oh.
Now, here's what's wild about that, Bull.
Yeah.
They've
don't have a
allowed
good record.
75 and they're number 2.
Yeah.
The Guardians have allowed 34.
I mean, that's just nuts.
41 fewer runs over
Yeah.
20 games. 2 runs a game less than the Cubs have been
That's
averaging.
more. The Cubs, who are the second best, are giving up more than double the runs.
More than double.
Yeah.
So here's what I tried to figure out, which
Yeah.
again, I ran into a roadblock on a 20-game stretch.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the best 20-game stretch by a pitching staff in Major League history, but I can tell you this. Everything AI was feeding me on that,
Yeah.
they kept saying, we can't find another instance. We
Yeah.
can't find another instance.
I mean, even if it's not the record, certainly
It's gotta be close.
Certainly, I'm not ignore the dead ball era and all that.
No,
stuff.
I actually, I'm glad you brought that up. I went live ball era 1920.
Yeah, I mean, I got to think it's like at least top 5 of the last 100 years.
I couldn't find anything that came close to it.
Yeah, that's
but
crazy.
Now, I know
Yeah.
this is apples to oranges because we're talking about 20 games compared to 162.
Yeah.
This surprised me. Do you know which team had the best ERA over an entire season in the live ball era? This shocked me.
If it surprised you, then it wouldn't be one of those Braves teams.
It would. That's what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
It was the 1968 Cleveland Indians,
Wow.
which was they were a mess of a team,
Okay,
but they
yeah.
had Louis Tiant and they had Sam McDowell.
Okay.
Their ERA was 2.91. The Guardians is below 1.7 because one of those 34 runs over the last 20 games was unearned. So I can't think of a time, and this is what it leads me to believe, Bull. And I talked about this a week and a half ago. I think what we're seeing from the Cleveland Guardians right now, and I know not every team is equipped to do this, but I think that Carl Willis has essentially changed. He's done to starting pitching what Tito did for the bullpens in 2016. Other teams are going to get onto this data, and they're going to realize just how important that extra day rest is particularly when you're late in the season.
Yeah, well,
this is revolutionary.
I don't know about that. I mean, other teams are using 6-man rotations.
They are, but
you got to have 6 effective starters for it to be.
And that's why I said not every team can do it. But Bull, I would argue that I did some numbers on 3 days rest, 4 days rest, 5 days rest. The ERA goes down precipitously with each extra day rest you're giving.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean,
so it just makes sense to me that in a game that parses numbers like baseball does.
Yeah.
How have we not gotten to this point earlier where teams have said, even if that 6th starter is mid, he's going to be better on that extra day's rest than he normally is.
Right, but I think for a lot of teams, and the Guardians are an unusual case where they have 6 guys who are at least pitching well. Like, we'll see what their careers turn out. A lot of them have done this for a long time. And they don't have, even though Gavin Williams has pitched like an ace for the second half, they don't have a true proven ace.
I think they do now. I think Gavin Williams is our ace.
I think they do, but he's not proven long enough. He hasn't been an ace. I mean, like, he hasn't been an elite number 1.
But would you agree that since July 1st he's been an ace?
Since July 1st he has been.
And what did they have last night? 19 strikeouts.
Yeah. Listen, the bullpen was great.
19 out of 24.
19 out of 27.
I was wondering.
That's crazy.
8 balls in play.
I thought
outs.
for a second there was a possibility he'd leave Gavin Williams in the 7th, but that 6th inning was so long that even though he only had like 92 pitches, I think it was the right move to take him out. But the bullpen was great. I mean, the pitching's just been amazing, and there was no sign of it because let's face it, before the stretch, Ciccone was pitching like crap.
He had a 2-game stretch where his ERA was over 9.
Right. Bybee was not pitching particularly well. He was at best inconsistent.
Yeah.
Cantillo was down in the minors.
Allen
was up and down.
Yeah.
And now they've all pitched. You're getting a great start every night. The Tigers, on the other hand, are not pitching as well, although Skubal pitched well yesterday. And their lineup is a total disaster.
Jay, as a pitcher, when Gavin Williams is when he's throwing his curveball and his slider like that, he's a little different. Like when he's getting guys to swing at that. Now, here's the thing too. I know they was a little salty at the strike zone.
Strike zone it's the worst. Yeah. It's the worst called game I've seen all year.
Speaking of which, did you hear they approved the ABS?
Just on time.
Yeah. Starting next year.
So the way it's going to work is you have the ability to challenge 2 pitches per game unsuccessfully.
Right.
If you successfully challenge a pitch, it doesn't count as one of your 2 challenges.
And you get
only
an extra,
the pitcher,
you get
catcher,
an extra
and
for
hitter.
extra innings.
They was giving him the Greg Maddux corners. And
it was the worst called game since the 95 World Series.
This guy was terrible.
I couldn't believe
I'd like to see what his grade was this morning.
Terrible.
I'd say a C.
I was sitting like sort of behind home plate, like just a little off, but like I feel like we had a pretty good view. It looked. I mean,
he called
the fans were
on
going
Stephen Kwan.
nuts.
It was 4 inches out of the
Oh my God!
I was like.
What's funny at the time,
but it went both ways.
Right?
I thought it went both ways.
The Tigers.
But a lot of the Tigers had a number of punch-outs on third strike on balls that were just not in the strike zone.
We had at the moment when he struck out Kwan with that bad pitch, I was actually in the car because I had baseball practice, and then I was trying to drive.
What did Tom Hamilton say about that?
And Tom Hamilton goes, "That's way high, but a strike 3."
It was unreal.
He was so good last night.
It was so high, so far out of the zone.
Yeah, and I was listening to Tom. I like to sync up the radio broadcast.
I do too.
Right.
So I mute the TV, and I was listening to Tom the last, I think, 2 innings.
His calls are so great.
It's the best.
And
it's
so much energy.
But we got to get into that 6th inning, though, because that was one of the craziest
inning I've seen in a long time.
I mean, think about this. You got bunt hit, then a bunt, which if the Guardians had lost, I might have been in here like, why was Angel Martinez bunting?
Right.
No, that's a good question.
I didn't understand the sack bunt. You down 2 runs.
I didn't like it either.
Unbelievable bunt.
But it worked out because
when it works.
Skubal tries to be Rex Sakahura, whatever the hell the Browns.
Brian Pomprion.
Yeah.
Hey.
Well, who's the Browns long snapper now? I forgot it last night. I forgot it again.
Rex Sanahara.
Sanahara.
What a name.
Yeah.
What was he? Bull
Savannah
reminded
Bananas.
me, and I said in our text, I said, he's a great pitcher. Sometimes the big moment proves too much for even great athletes. This is what it reminded me of, and I'm interested in get your take. Last year, Yankees-Dodgers. Yankees are in control of a game.
Yeah.
A ball is hit to Aaron Judge. He's a very sound defensive player.
Yeah, he's a good fielder. Yeah.
He drops the ball.
Right.
And then the wheels fell off
Yes,
the wagon.
yeah.
And Yankees fans are literally watching this going, there went our World Series. In that inning, that one inning. And to me, the 6th inning last night reminded me of that inning of the World Series game because it was one thing after another. And after the Skubal hike, I felt like he's going to leave one in the zone. He's going to do something that is very punitive to his team. I didn't know what.
Right.
It ended up being the balk, which is, I mean, how uncharacteristic is that?
Right.
And you know, that balk was a forced error by Jose.
Oh, no doubt. Let's go back for a second. After the hike, so now it's second and third.
Yeah.
Right. Jose comes up. If you
Nubs
see,
one.
Go back and watch the video. Oh, we can't show it. It sucks. He hit the ball. I'm trying to remember if he was batting lefty or righty. I can't remember now.
He's
He was
batting
batting
right.
right. He's batting right. So he's like, it hit the bat like here.
Yeah.
That was barely above his head.
And it nubbed, what,
and
55?
that's why it barely went anywhere.
Right.
But it was perfect.
Yeah, he
so
couldn't
they
have
scored.
placed it any better.
And another good bit of luck for the Guardians is in that situation, what did you have? You had Quan at third, Martinez at second, and Jose hitting. Because you had three really good base runners and two elite base runners with Jose and Quan.
Right.
Like, with other base runners, maybe there's a play somewhere. It's possible. And this comes to play again later. But so they get a run on that. And then obviously we all know what happened with Fry, which was just awful, and obviously rooting for him. But
by the way, further shook Skubal.
Yeah.
Skubal was already shaking.
He went off the cliff.
But the
after that.
second the ball hit him, he threw his glove and hat off, and
the next pitch was in the dirt.
the next pitch was a wild pitch that
they
tied the game.
Yeah. And you said, like, we saw him on TV.
I watched him the whole time,
down
dude. He was like, they were like taking, a lot of players were on their knee taking a prayer,
Yeah.
praying for Fry, which was very scary. It was very like,
Yeah.
nobody knew what was going on. It seemed like forever that he was down, and they bring the card out and all this whole thing. It was nice to see him give the thumbs up.
Yeah.
Because like you're like, oh my god. I mean,
right. Like, who knows how?
I couldn't tell if there was blood because he had a thing on his like a washcloth or
They
something.
put a towel over his
on
face. There was some blood. I saw some still images.
Yeah, I mean,
this
you could
morning.
die from something like that. It's possible.
Listen,
And I
Ray Chapman
understand.
was the only player in the history of Major League Baseball to
Right,
die.
yeah.
A Cleveland Indian.
Yeah.
I think it was like 1920 or something,
Right.
over 100 years ago. But yeah, 99 fastball to the face.
Yeah.
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 That could do it.
And it was real because before the game, I noticed that he was like, baseball had this weird camaraderie. Like, he was over there talking to Hedges down the third base line. It was, obviously they know each other. Guys were yucking it up and having a good. So when he threw the baseball, it was like he saw his brother or something die.
Yeah.
Like, it was wild. And after that, you said it earlier about being an emotional pitcher. Usually,
He was shook, man.
Generally speaking,
He was shook. Yeah.
If you
Threw two
see
balls right
three
away.
or four things happen like that in a row in succession, even though you're a guy that never, it's bunts. You have a bunt. You got another one that goes.
They scored 3 runs
on nothing.
According to Pitching Ninja, who does awesome job finding stats.
55
if you guys don't
feet.
follow, the hardest hit ball in that 3-run 6th inning. You ready for this?
Might have been Arias.
65 mile an hour.
65.5 miles per hour off the bat.
I mean,
exit velo of 65.5.
It's Little League
They scored
velo.
3 runs off
Right.
arguably the best pitcher
Well,
in
and
the
the ball
American League.
never even reached a base. Like,
Didn't reach the dirt.
Right. Didn't even reach there.
Nothing did.
So the wild pitch, then Jose's on second, right? And then, as you said, he's messing with Skubal out at second base.
Forced error.
Yeah.
Forces
In
the
tennis
balk.
terms, that's a forced error.
Forced error.
And then Arias just, hit up probably the hardest hit ball, a chopper to first. And again, if you go back and look at the replay, Jose
Breaking.
is almost halfway home by the time the ball bounces the first time.
So in that situation,
Yeah.
you'll know this being a base coach and being a
Yeah.
baseball guy. In that situation, even if it's infield in, if it's hit to the right side, you're gone.
Gone.
You are breaking. And he timed it perfectly. I went back and looked at it too,
Yeah.
like you did,
Yeah.
I'm sure. And certain players, defensive backs, have this innate ability to instinctively know where the ball's going. A great center fielder oftentimes will make his first step at impact. So the ball isn't even off the bat yet, but based on what pitch was thrown and where it was thrown, he knows it's going to be in the gap the other way, and they move. And it's the same thing with Jose on the bases.
Yeah.
Jose has this Mensa-level ability to know when he should go and know when he should stay, and he broke. That was textbook. He broke at exactly the right time.
Yeah, and they had no shot.
And they had no shot to get him.
I talked to kids, the ball kids I coach, about getting a secondary lead.
Huge.
Like I pound that. And,
yes.
and
especially in second.
Second, but even at third, because he had a huge secondary lead.
He always does.
And so his instinct, the second the ball was touched, there was no way. They didn't even look at home plate.
And the thing is, in that situation, what you're most worried about is a line drive.
Sure, yeah.
And in that case in particular, you're worried about a line drive to third base.
Right,
because
right.
he's doubled up in that
yeah.
situation.
Yes,
but it's a calculated risk.
Yeah, absolutely.
He knows that the odds of that happening are so minuscule. And if they do, you know what Vogt says when he comes in? Aggressive mistake.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
I'll die with that every
That's
single
right.
time because more often than not,
That's right.
it's going to work.
It's super underrated. Like the importance of base running, people don't talk about it all the time.
It gets
the new kid they brought up that José was running around the dugout saying, "I like this kid. I like this kid." He had the infield
Halpin?
base hit. Yeah, he had the infield base hit, which actually I don't know why Detroit didn't challenge it. It went off his leg.
Oh, I didn't
So
even
if you weren't watching it and you were listening on the radio, so.
No, I was watching it, but
he hit it, and it actually went off of his leg, which means is a dead ball.
Yeah.
And Detroit came out, and I thought Hinch was going to challenge it because he was talking to the umpire, but he didn't challenge it, which was, it would have been overturned for sure. But he got a base hit out of it because he came out of the box like his feet were on fire, and Andre Knott was saying, guys, just to let you know how infectious this kind of baseball can be. José Ramírez, who is not easily impressed, was running up and down the dugout saying, I love the way this kid plays. I love this kid. Of course he does. That's how José plays. So,
yeah, well, again, we've said this many times before, but it's worth repeating. When your best player is your hardest worker, it rubs off on the other players. And
it does.
That's very rare that's the case.
Yeah,
but nobody outworks José.
Can I give you we're on a high. All of us are.
Yeah.
These games count for 2 in the standings.
Absolutely. The magic number for winning the division is 5.
That's right.
So if they sweep this series, it's down to 1.
Yeah, which means a win over Texas or a Tigers loss at Fenway, and they're in.
Yes.
But there is reason to be concerned. There is reason to be concerned. And I don't want to, I always look at, I'm a Cleveland sports fan. I'm cynical.
All right.
So what could go wrong? And what could go wrong is the Tigers win the next 2, they're back in the driver's seat.
Yes.
Okay? One thing that really concerns me, Bull, I've never seen this before. I don't know if it's ever happened before.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the run differentials for the 6 division leaders right now.
I know the Guardians is -5. But
-6.
They were at negative 60.
They were.
Yeah.
But the Phillies.
I know they're way off.
Plus 121. The Brewers, plus 173.
Yeah.
The Dodgers, plus 125. The Jays, plus 63. Seattle, plus 69. Guardians, -6.
Yeah. I know. Listen, there's a lot about the Guardians that is hard to believe. It's probably the worst offensive club I've ever seen potentially make the playoffs. But you know
I would
what?
second that.
Sometimes you just live in the moment. Right now, they're a different team. Right now, for the last 3 weeks, they're a mediocre offensive team instead of a terrible offensive
But
team.
you know what they are? They're an opportunistic.
They have been. They've been
get
clutch.
They said last night during the telecast that they've scored in this stretch of 20 games or whatever it is. They've scored more runs with 2 outs than they have with 1 or none.
Their batting average with 2 outs is like 340.
It's
That's
insane.
crazy. It doesn't make any sense.
Everybody is coming through in the clutch.
Well,
it doesn't matter who it is.
It was Schneemann again last night
Schneemann.
with 2 outs in the 7th, right? It's only a 3-2 game at the time.
Yeah.
And then Hedges walked, right? Didn't he walk?
He
How'd he get
did
on?
walk. I think he
and
walked.
you and I both at the same time were like, why not a pinch run for him?
I know.
And then Quan gets a double. You might have scored had you had a even if Bo Naylor's
You know who
running.
I wanted him to run? The Halpern kid, whatever his name is.
Yeah, Petey Halpin.
He scores from first.
Yes.
On that double
but
down
even
the line.
Bo Naylor's a better runner than
Yeah, but I wouldn't have sent Bo on that.
Yeah,
Bo's
but-
better than Hedgie.
Anyway, but
Hedgie runs like he's got G. Bush on his back.
Yeah.
You know, he's
But
not-
then Schneemann
He
comes
got the
through.
third. He got the third and was like, "Yeah, I'm didn't wait for me home."
He was even pulling up
Right.
coming into third. He wasn't thinking home
And you
at
know
all.
the Tigers are panicking. They're bringing the closer in the 7th inning.
Yeah, I thought Hinch, he managed that like it was a playoff game.
I think the Guardians are going to sweep the series. I said it yesterday. I'll say it again today. I feel even more, obviously, even more confident.
Really?
They are on a roll. The Tigers are tight. You can't be tighter than the Tigers are. They know this is the worst collapse in the history of the sport.
If they lose tonight,
What do you think of the pitching matchup tonight? I mean, Flaherty's
I
been
like it.
good.
I like
Bobby's
it.
obviously pitching much better of late.
I like it. I
Flaherty's-
think advantage us.
Flaherty's not that good.
If they
No.
couldn't win last night in the way things happened,
Right,
they
right,
got to
right.
be in their head a little bit about like, oh my God, if we can't win that game, because like it was,
Right.
dude, Skubal was cruising.
Yeah, he was.
Like there was no way we win that game unless those circumstances happened. Like it had to be that way because we weren't getting hit off that.
It
guy.
was hard.
The interesting thing
We
about
weren't even putting the
Skubal,
ball in
though,
play.
Not
he
football
missed a
player.
lot last night, and he doesn't miss.
No, he didn't have great command.
His command, and I'm telling you, I think we're going to find out when the season's over and we do the post-mortem here.
Yeah.
Something's wrong with Tarik Skubal. I think you can go back to the start 2 starts ago when he had to leave in the 3rd or 4th inning with the oblique.
Yeah.
He hasn't won since.
I wish I could be that good.
I mean,
listen,
it's 4 hits.
Listen,
and 2 of them was bunts.
it's not the hits. Do you see those 3
the walks
over
are
there?
unusual.
Tarik Skubal doesn't walk guys.
Well,
He just doesn't.
Maybe he's feeling some nerves too, man.
Yeah.
Well,
He's huge.
I think
know.
it could be nerves. I mentioned I don't think
knows?
he handled the big moment well at all yesterday, but also he was missing, and
Yeah.
you could see the frustration building, particularly missing high. He was missing high a lot. And I know when I miss high a lot, I'm overthrowing. And a lot of times when I'm overthrowing, I'm overcompensating for something. Something hurts.
Yeah.
I'm using my more elbow than shoulder or more shoulder than elbow, and I can't be fine with my...
Here's a perfect scenario, too, by the way. I don't know if we mentioned this yesterday. Is that the Guardians win the division, end up to 3. I mean, I'd like them to be higher, but most likely they're going to.
I know where you're going with this.
And the Tigers hold on to that 6th spot.
It's us in Detroit.
And
the Yankees and Red Sox would play, too.
Right, but part of this is that Skubal will probably have to pitch Sunday for the
To get
Tigers
them in.
to get them in.
Yeah.
Which means
He would
the
be unavailable.
soonest- it's a best of 3.
Yeah.
The soonest he could pitch was Game 3, and that would be on short rest.
Yeah.
So that would be an amazing scenario.
It could
to
play
play them
out
again.
Yeah, it could play out. I was thinking that last night.
But I think they're going to completely collapse, and I wouldn't be surprised if they don't make the playoffs at all.
Man, it'd be the biggest collapse in Major League
Oh,
history.
my God.
And it would be the biggest deficit erased in Major League history.
Now, EP Steve says the Rangers are eliminated. Is that correct?
They're out.
They're done?
They're done.
So what
and
have
I
to play for?
believe they may.
They've already announced some of their key guys are done for the
Yes, they announced last night that 2 of their starters are
Yeah,
not going to work.
they're done. The
So,
Royals are mathematically
to me,
alive, but they're not really
That's
alive.
huge advantage, Guardians, Bull, because as you know,
Yeah.
when a team goes into white flag mode, just look at the Minnesota Twins.
Yeah.
They went into white flag mode at the trade deadline.
Yeah.
And I know that they traded away half their team.
Right.
But even the Buxtons of the Twins, everybody has taken a huge drop off because the white flag is out.
Haven't the Rangers lost 8 in a row?
Thanks,
Or 9 in a
7.
row?
Maybe
That's crazy.
they're out of it. I know that.
Yes, Marcus
And a
Semien.
week ago they
their
were in the
starting
thick of
middle
it.
infield. Marcus Semien and Corey Seager have been hurt, who might have been able to come back.
Well,
They shut them down both
yeah.
for the rest of the year.
Lost 8 in a row, Bull. You're right.
They've lost 8 in a row. They're
This is-
playing
this is-
terribly.
And they
so-
still have a plus 80 run differential.
They've given up the fewest runs in Major League Baseball.
Yeah,
by a lot.
Yeah, listen, they'll still have some good pitchers, probably. But who knows? Maybe they'll shut down DeGrom. I don't know when he's supposed to pitch, but he's injury prone. I could very well see them shutting him down.
Why would you risk it?
Yeah,
with a guy like
with
that
his
who
injury history.
gets hurt all the time.
So I don't know.
As it stands now, Bull, according to ESPN, the 3 pitchers in that Rangers-Guardians series would be Leiter, Kelly, and Corbin.
Oh, beautiful!
That's great for us.
Those are the 3 worst starters.
Yeah, I'll take
Leiter's
that.
been good. He's a rookie. He's been solid.
He's been really good.
Merrill Kelly's been okay since going to the Rangers. Patrick Corbin stinks. He got off to a good start this year, but he's terrible.
Let's just hope that
so
it
that's-
doesn't come
that's good.
down to the last day of the season. I would love for them to just be able to
Yeah.
settle in,
Right.
get your rotation right for the playoffs, because that's always important. The teams
Well,
that can do that have a
Now
big
think about it
advantage.
this way: Gavin Williams, you want him game 1.
Yes, absolutely.
So
He
Gavin
doesn't pitch again.
like Skubal. If the Guardians need it, Gavin Williams is going to pitch Sunday.
That's why I don't want to need it.
You want to clinch by Saturday.
I want him on ice by Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, you could clinch. They could clinch a playoff spot
Friday.
actually by tomorrow.
They could clinch a playoff
If they
spot
win
tomorrow.
their next 2 and the
And the
Rangers
Reds-
lose their next, I'm sorry,
the Red Sox.
Astros lose their next.
I thought
2.
it was the Red Sox that would have to lose.
No, because they're a game up. Aren't they 2 up on the Astros, Mike?
In the wild card standings right now, technically the Guardians are
No,
not
what are the
part-
Tigers up on the Astros?
Let's take wild card standings. They're a game up on the Astros.
They're a game up on the Astros.
Yeah.
Oh wait, they're 2 up because the Guardians
Have
have,
a
the tiebreaker.
yeah.
So if the Guardians win their next 2 and the Astros lose their next 2, they'd be essentially 3 up on the Astros with 3 to go.
And that would clinch a
even if
spot.
they lost
Yeah.
out, and even if but they're going to play they want to play for the division. But if it's the last day of the season and they've clinched a playoff spot, I'm not pitching Gavin Williams, even if it means I got to win the division.
That's what I was going to ask
Yeah,
you.
I
I'm
would.
pitching him if the division's in play because you get extra rest. No, you don't. No, you don't.
wouldn't.
Only the first 2
No, you
get.
wouldn't. You just get
Is
home.
there a
You just
chance
get it
that
home.
they can catch the 2 or not? Mathematically, I think
there is. What is Mike? What is the Mariners' record right now? They've won $1 million in a row too.
Yeah, they've been
They're as
red
hot as the
hot.
Guardians.
The Mariners have 88 wins. The Guardians have 85.
Okay, so yeah,
Yeah,
we
it's
could,
unlikely though. I don't know what the tiebreaker is with the Mariners.
I don't know if we have it or not,
The
but
Blue
we
Jays
could
have
catch
80.
them.
Nobody's got 90 wins in the American League. I don't believe, right?
No, the Blue Jays do.
Blue Jays have 90?
Blue Jays have 90.
And the Yankees have 89. Second
Right.
most.
But 90. I mean, this late with only 5 games to go.
It's crazy.
You know.